military went in and discovered, of course, that the worst had come to pass, and there were 900 odd bodies lying on the ground in the tropical heat, already beginning to decompose. An account from Dreyer, a United States employee of the embassy in Guyana, describes in gruesome detail the horrors discovered in Jonestown. The Jonestown massacre did not happen by accident. Jim Jones rose as an American cult leader, accumulated a large group of followers, and through the People's Temple, he was able to manipulate and eventually cause the deaths of over 900 people. To begin, James Jim Warren Jones was born on May 13th in 1931 in Indiana. He was an avid churchgoer throughout his entire childhood, and after graduating from Butler University, he entered the ministry. He was extremely charismatic and a natural leader. He promoted social justice, racial and class equality, and desegregation. The elders of the church were unhappy with these ideas. So, in 1955, he established the Wings of Deliverance, a Pentecostal church. Due to the tension of the Cold War and the fear of nuclear war, it was easy to convince his followers to move to Northern California in 1965. It was there that he became the leader of the People's Temple in San Francisco. By 1971, there were over 5,000 members. After allegations of extortion, abuse, and brainwashing, Jim Jones had to convince his followers to move, yet again, this time to the jungle of Guyana with the promise of utopia. The move to Guyana gave Jim the ability to isolate his followers and grow his community. He was able to build an army of loyal followers, purchase weapons, and convince people that the outsiders were out to ruin their perfect lifestyle. Stephen Jones, his biological son, spoke on the original intent of Jonestown in 2018. Bust down some walls, and to create a community where all are welcome, no matter where they come from. He was able to further isolate his members by confiscating their passports, taking their life savings, blackmailing them, and even threatening them with death. Stephen Jones said, "My father could in an instant identify what was most important to you, and probably what you were most afraid of. He could quickly convey that he was the one to protect you from what you were afraid of and to help you have whatever it is that you longed for." Stephen resented the time that his father spent with others and saw him as a dangerous man. "I lived in a community that was filled with every walk of life, every color of the rainbow, and every level of education. For the most part, we lived in harmony most of the time, especially early on." Unfortunately, the superficial utopia promised by Jim Jones took a tragic turn when concerned relatives began to push U.S. authorities to investigate the community of Jonestown. Jim Jones had been practicing fake suicides while encouraging his members to be willing to die for the cause. In 1978, he invited U.S. Congressman Leo Ryan of California, news reporters, and concerned relatives to visit Jonestown. This was an attempt by Jim to alleviate concerns of brainwashing and abuse. After Ryan, the news crew, and 14 members attempted to leave and were ambushed on the tarmac by a group of people with guns ordered to kill by Jim Jones feared the repercussions of the assassination, so he activated his revolutionary suicide plan. After summoning all of his followers to the main pavilion, he said, "Death is 1,000,000 times preferable to 10 more days of this life. If you knew what was ahead of you, you'd be glad to be stepping over tonight." Using a mix of cyanide and a fruit-flavored powder similar to Kool-Aid, 276 children were forced drinks were given injections by parents or nurses. The rest of the adults drank the poison or injected it. 913 total people died, some of them of gunshot wounds, which are thought to be defectors. Jim Jones was found with a single bullet wound to the head, most likely self-inflicted. Through the People's Temple, Jim Jones was able to manipulate and eventually cause the deaths of over 900 people. As a self-proclaimed messiah, he was able to build a church using social injustices of the time that was focused on equality for all people, isolate them from their friends and family, and eventually lead them to make the ultimate sacrifice of life for his cause. Consider this: in only 23 years, a man of God created a church with over 5,000 members. He convinced almost 1,000 people to abandon their families, give up their life savings, and live as one in the Jonestown compound. Over 250 innocent children were murdered by their parents to follow one man's warped sense of reality.